Hello everybody, Anthony Aniano here from RotoBaller Radio and RotoBaller.com with the Fantasy Football Week 9 Sleepers and Value Plays. Just a reminder, in Week 9, we have 6 teams on a bye. The Cleveland Browns, Dallas Cowboys, Denver Broncos, my New York Giants, Pittsburgh Steelers, and San Francisco 49ers. So 3 less games to choose from with these 6 teams on a bye. At the quarterback position, however, for Week 9 of the Sleeper and Value Plays, let's take a look at Justin Fields of the Chicago Bears against the Miami Dolphins. Priced at only $5,300 on DraftKings. For the season, he's averaging 16.2 fantasy points per game. However, over his last 3 weeks, Justin Fields, 19.4, 24.4, and 26 fantasy points in a DraftKings scoring format. Okay, with the addition now of Chase Claypool out wide along with Darnell Mooney. The Miami Dolphin defense is 27th in the league in allowing quarterback fantasy points per game with 23.5 points per game, and they have allowed 12 quarterback touchdown passes this season. At the running back position in the Week 9 Sleeper and Value Play, A.J. Dillon of the Green Bay Packers. Again, it's a common theme here every week, playing against the Detroit Lions. A.J. Dillon is priced at $5,700, averaging 8.1 fantasy points per game. Now, he only has 1 TD on the season and hasn't been overly productive, right? Aaron Jones has been clearly the more productive running back for the Green Bay Packers. However, A.J. Dillon is still getting over 10 carries per game. In fact, in 6 games this season, A.J. Dillon has exceeded 10 carries. The reality is the best 2 players on that Packer offense, best 2 weapons for Aaron Rodgers are A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones. And I just can't resist a backup running back of the talent of A.J. Dillon against that Detroit Lion defense. A Lion defense that ranks 30th against opposing running backs. They're allowing 27.7 fantasy points per game to running backs alone. They have allowed 11 total touchdowns to running backs alone. And on the season, they do allow over 32 in fact, 32.1 overall points per game, the most points per game allowed in the entire NFL. So this is an opportunity where both Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon can get in the end zone and accumulate some points, and at $5,700 on DraftKings is a nice value play. My second running back, Khalil Herbert, going back to the Chicago Bears against the Miami Dolphins. There's no doubt the Miami Dolphins can put up points, but the truth of the matter is Miami allows points to be scored. They're allowing 24 overall points per game, and Khalil Herbert is emerging, in my opinion, as the better running back in that Chicago Bear backfield. In fact, David Montgomery, the quote-unquote starter in the Bears backfield, David Montgomery on DraftKings is 6,000 this week, yet he's averaging 10.9 points per game in a DraftKings scoring format. Khalil Herbert is less than that. He's 5,800 and averaging more points per game at 12 points per game. Khalil Herbert has 15 or more fantasy points in each of his last 2 games. Miami allows 24.5 fantasy points per game to opposing running backs and 10 total touchdowns to the running back position. My third, and I usually don't do 3, but my honorable mention running back will mention it, and it comes with a caveat. Cordarrelle Patterson can potentially play on Sunday. At the time of this recording, Thursday, before the Thursday night game, he has not been officially put in or out of the game. He has been activated off of IR, which gives him a 3-week window to return to the field. Cordarrelle Patterson plays, Tyler Algier loses value. However, for this week, if Cordarrelle Patterson does not play, and we should know by the time this is released on Saturday or Sunday morning, if Cordarrelle Patterson does not play, Tyler Algier of the Atlanta Falcons against Los Angeles Chargers is my honorable mention third running back to mention. Priced at $5,400 on DraftKings and averaging 8.1 points per game in a DraftKings format. He's gotten 11 or more fantasy points in each of the last 2 games. And just keep in mind, the Chargers, who allow 27 points per game, second most in the league, also are 31st in the league in fantasy points per game allowed to running backs. Running backs average 29.2 points per game against the Chargers defense with 10 total touchdowns. So whatever happens in this Falcons backfield, whether Cordarrelle Patterson is active or if he's not and Tyler Algier is there for you, go with an Atlanta Falcon running back as a value sleeper play. Thus, because of the uncertainty in that backfield, they're only an honorable mention status. A.J. Dillon, Khalil Herbert are the top two, but be mindful of the Falcons situation against the Chargers. Now, wide receivers for Week 9 that fall under the value and sleeper play situation. Romeo Doubs of the Green Bay Packers. Again, picking on the Detroit Lions. 5,900 on DraftKings, 9.7 points per game. Last week, 4 catches, 62 yards, and did get in the end zone. Allen Lazard, again, as of this recording, Thursday, before the Thursday night game, still listed as questionable. Detroit is 29th in the league against opposing wide receivers, allowing 40.1 points per game to the position with 7 wide receiver touchdowns. And again, I remind you, Detroit allows the most points per game in the league at 32 points per game, 32.1 points per game, dead last in the league. Detroit can score, but they can't stop anybody. My second value play and sleeper for Week 9, Josh Palmer of the Chargers. He's going to be a chalk play, in my opinion, in formats like DraftKings. I added him and I'm using him in season-long formats as well. Josh Palmer against the Atlanta Falcons. He's priced at $5,100, and there's a great chance he'll be the wide receiver 1 for Justin Herbert this week against that Falcons secondary. Mike Williams is definitely out. Keenan Allen still struggling with that hamstring. Last time Josh Palmer played was Week 6. He missed Week 7 with a concussion. Week 8, the team was on a bye. But Josh Palmer, who averages 9.4 fantasy points per game in Week 6, was targeted 12 times, 9 catches for 57 yards, and should be Justin Herbert's number 1 target against the Falcons defense that is dead last in fantasy points per game allowed to opposing wide receivers with 46.4 points per game. And wide receivers have scored 10 touchdowns on the season against the Chargers defense. Chargers have allowed 27.7 points per game to opposing teams in the NFL. So a terrific matchup for Josh Palmer. Get him in your leagues, whether it's season-long or DFS formats. And finally, at the tight end position, value and sleeper play, Evan Ingram of the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Las Vegas Raiders. Evan Ingram is 3,300 on DraftKings, 9.1 fantasy points per game. 4 games this season, Evan Ingram has scored over 10 fantasy points. The Vegas Raiders allow 16.2 points per game to opposing tight ends. That's 30th in the league. They've allowed 6 touchdowns to opposing tight ends, second most in the league, just behind the Arizona Cardinals, who are 31st in the league, that allow 19.5 points per game to tight ends and have allowed 7 touchdowns. Will Disley was a consideration for my tight end sleeper play. Problem is Seattle, Noah Fant, Will Disley. A tight end in Seattle is going to put up points. The question for me becomes which one? Disley, Noah Fant. Both of them are nice options. You can pick on that Arizona defense. But neither is a clear-cut option against that defense like Evan Ingram is against the Las Vegas Raiders. So to recap, my value and sleeper plays for Week 9 of the fantasy football season. Quarterback, Justin Fields. My top 2 running backs, A.J. Dillon, Khalil Herbert, with an honorable mention to Tyler Algier if Cordarrelle Patterson is not activated in time for Sunday's game. My wide receivers are Romeo Doubs and Josh Palmer, and my tight end is Evan Ingram. Folks, don't forget, like and subscribe right here to the RotoBaller YouTube channel and get all sorts of great content, starting with waiver wire and then throughout the week with tons of start sits and then ending with the value and sleeper plays. Sign up at RotoBaller.com for the Premium Pass right now using the promotional code ACES for all the great content there, including the lineup optimizer and team sync tools. Give me a follow on Twitter at Aniano Fantasy. Good luck in Week 9, and we'll see you next time right here on RotoBaller Radio.